Work was kind of on hold for a little while there. I was able to do some estate executions via Zoom, luckily, and as things have cleared up, now I'm just now getting back into the office and meeting people, which is kind of nice. It gets lonely, so.
Elena Sullivan, owner and attorney of Sullivans, says before things were put on pause, she had a full plate she had to move home.
Actually, the week that we shut down, I had several appointments scheduled, but my daughter is 8 and she was going to Daniel Axford at the time, and so their school shut down, which meant that mom shut down. Most of my work was done at home pretty much throughout the spring. We were anticipating a short term, so I didn't move my printer home or anything like that. We were kind of just anticipating after spring break going back. But I took the health, crisis very seriously, and I have a young daughter, so I listened to what needed to be said and took the precautions. I do admit that I was cautious with meeting with people, for sure, and I still am cautious and take all the precautions that we need to do, but at the same time, I've had a lot of people contacting me saying that, this health crisis has made them aware that they need their estate plan. So I'm happy to, work with people. I can still do Zoom calls. I know that people are kind of scared to meet in person, so that's understandable.
Sullivan says navigating through this time in the pandemic can be tricky, which is why some of her business is still ran 75% over Zoom and phone calls.
The ones that I am cautious with are the clients who are older, and I'm aware that they have health issues and they're higher risk, so I don't want to put them in jeopardy if at all possible. But they're also the ones who are unsure of Zoom too, so it kind of puts you in a little bit of a predicament. But I'm happy to work with whatever they're comfortable with.
That included adding a few things to her office.
It feels weird. I feel like I'm in a banker, but sometimes I do have to take the mask off to talk to people because, if they're hard of hearing, they can't read lips, and, I understand that I need to be flexible, but it also gives me the added protection. We've pushed the chairs back too, and I hand sanitizer. I sanitize pens when people leave, so I do what I need to do to make sure that they're safe. I have to admit, I got the hand sanitizer pretty early on because I knew that when my daughter went back to school, her teacher would need it, so I kind of gave him some when she started school just in case, and I kept some for myself. But it wasn't terribly hard to find everything, not so much.
While finding the supplies she needed came easily, there are some things that aren't as easy.
It's hard because, I like to work with clients and interface with them, and I understand that, we have to kind of be a little bit more distant. So being personable, which I pride myself on doing, is a little harder when you have to be, stay back, and I can't shake hands and things like that. Filing a lot of court documents, they're still working from home. A lot of the courts systems are, some are in person, so it's a little slower, it's a little harder to get things done. So I do estate planning, but I do some probate, which means, closing up an estate or handling an estate. Not much of my practice is that, but mailing things to the courts take longer, then they have to process it. That takes about a week longer. It's just a little bit slower, but maybe a couple weeks. So it's not horrible, but it's just noticeable. Well, really, my speed in preparing the documents as their attorney hasn't slowed down necessarily. I'm able to get, once they give me the intake form, I'm able to get their stuff to them pretty quickly within a week. So that hasn't slowed down necessarily. My hours have been more limited because school has been pushed back, and they're adjusting to remote learning and things like that, so I've had to adjust. Sometimes I have my daughter here, it's unavoidable, but I'm a mom as well as a business owner, so the beauty of my job is I can be flexible, which is why I love my office space where I am and what I do.
Sullivan had just moved her business to a new location in November of last year before everything began, but she says she would have made the same decision to move even if she knew she wouldn't get to use it until almost a full year later.
I was settled in. I didn't get a chance to paint the office, but I did miss getting to use it, but it was kind of, bad timing, definitely. But it was nice when things picked up. I was already here, so I didn't have to move. But it was, before this, I was across the street, closer to the tap, but it was an upstairs location. And the reason we chose this one is a lot of my clients are older and it's a first level. So it's safer. It makes me feel a little bit better that they're not climbing stairs as they come to see me. So I would have moved regardless, just for their safety and for my peace of mind that they're okay. Yeah.
Sullivans being closer to the ground, it's a little harder to ignore the difficulties of M24 construction, at least in some ways.
It's a little louder, but that's nothing I can't handle. I've had a couple clients coming from Macomb. Like I said, I moved here 4 years ago, so I'm still learning my way. And so I had to pull up a map and kind of guide her through the back streets. I don't know what the names of them are. So I'm learning the streets at least. But it hasn't done too much, really. No. I'm excited for things to get back to normal, and have the festivals that we've had, and the downtown's so great, so I'm excited to see what it's going to look like, but also have the community again out there.
Despite some of the obstacles this year has thrown her way, Sullivan says she's gained a few customers.
This health crisis has brought to the fear of mortality and what could happen of being seriously ill. So that's come out a lot more. No one wants to think about their death, which is a lot of times why people put off doing this. But everyone does pass away at some point, and even if you have a power of attorney document and you're sick, it's important to have. And I think COVID and the fact that it affects every single type of person kind of has pushed it to a priority for a lot of people. So I focus mainly on estate planning, and it's a subject that I've had my daughter ask me, Mom, why do you talk about death all the time? And prior to moving up here, I used to do divorce, and I did child abuse cases in Indiana, and those were super stressful, and oddly enough, death is less stressful, but it also gives me a lot of pleasure in helping people, because this is something you need to make your life easier and make your loved ones' lives easier. And I try to make it as easy as possible, because it's not something that's fun to think about, but it's something that's really important. And I think that that's something that people always have on their to-do list, but it's easy to put off. Yeah. I mean, I just recently got my own parents to do their will, and I've been licensed for almost like 15, 16 years. But people put it off. It's just easy to do. So, I'm here and I'm happy to work with people and explain it and educate them. And so it's important to have all of those documents that I do with an estate plan. For people who are parents and they have young children, it's important to have that guardian lined up, someone who's going to care for your children if you're not there. No one wants to think that's going to happen, but it could. With a trust, that protects your property so that you don't have to go through probate and your loved ones don't have to go through the legal system and incur attorney's fees and all of that stuff. Powers of attorney and healthcare powers of attorney are super important too, because those are the ones that if you are still alive but incapacitated, someone can speak on your behalf, and that's something that people often will overlook. But by not having those, you're putting your loved ones to have to go through that process of becoming your guardian through the court system. It's not pleasant, it's not easy, but just having those documents there, and even a living will, a DNR, what are your wishes, and explaining those. I always tell clients too, is once you drop those documents, don't just put them away, make sure that you're reviewing them too, because things change and life happens. With healthcare needs, also, you talk to your family about what you like and what you don't like and what you want, because you don't want someone to be surprised. Life isn't like a movie where you surprise, you're the guardian of my child. Make sure that's okay, but it's important to line all those things up, because you just never know what tomorrow may bring. And all of us have to realize that, as hard it is, to hear.
She says one thing that keeps her and her clients going sometimes is a furry, four-legged friend.
So I have my pup Lily here, and she's 2 years old, so she's still got a lot of puppy in her, but she's my emotional support animal for clients that come in. She wants belly rubs and loves to be loved, but it's, she also adds a little element of humor before. So there have been a few client meetings where she's snored, or she'll start drinking her water in the middle of it, or even farting once too for a client. But it's the moment of levity that you need where you're laughing. But she is something that kind of gives me a little bit of fuzzies, when I'm talking about things that are hard. It's nice to have a buddy here.
When it comes down to business, Sullivan says she's flexible to whatever her clients need.
My consultations the first consultation's always free, and I'm happy to do that in person, or I've done a lot of consultations over the phone, but that's always free, so that I can a lot of people come in thinking, oh, I just need this will, and that's all I need. I like to explain the process and educate them, and they might change their mind on what they need at that point. So, that's what I like to do, is to kind of clear up misconceptions and guide them in the right direction.